Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson, World Alternative Media here, and in the true spirit of freedom, every time the government tells people that they can't or shouldn't do something, people tend to do it, which is one of the most amazing factors that plays into this kind of revolution or evolution or whatever that we're fighting right now. I think it's hard to really tell whether it's a good day or a bad day as we see a lot of loosened grips on guns in places like California. As this article out of Zero Hedge says, the Ninth Circuit strikes down California's ban on high-capacity magazines, and as it says, as American thinkers Andrea Whitberg writes, a three-judge panel held that California's ban on high-capacity magazines violated citizens' rights under the Second Amendment to keep and bear arms. So that's pretty interesting coming from somewhere like, California. It's very rare that they actually care about anything in the Constitution, but there's also more to it, and I saw this article a few days ago that says surging gun sales triggers second ammo shortage of the year, and we're going to go into all of that and more today, but first make sure to hit that like button, share on social media to get around the shadow banning. Join our new newsletter at www.iambanned.com. Join us on Flote.app, BitChute, LBRY, and Minds to get off of YouTube, as we are leaving by November 5th, only putting up trailers after that point. And also, we are completely viewer funded and completely demonetized on YouTube, so check the links below for ways that you can donate and pledge to us with GoFundMe, Patreon, Subscribestar, or even Flote in crypto, or our Cointree address where you can send all sorts of cryptos, including Monero if you want to stay private. Anyways, let's get into this story. As the Zero Hedge article says, surging gun sales triggers second ammo shortage of the year. And as it goes into, the virus pandemic triggered a socioeconomic bomb across major U.S. metro areas, resulting in one of the largest panic hoardings of guns and ammo by fearful consumers in quite some time, if not ever. Gregory Ionati, 75, the owner of gun shop Smokin' Guns, located in Oakmont, Pennsylvania, told PJ Media, and I quote, "Prior to the COVID outbreak, President Obama was the best gun salesman we ever had," said Ionati. Anytime he was going to ban this, ban that, there was a rush on gun sales. When President Trump was elected, the fear of a gun ban subsided and sales were so flat that several gun manufacturers went out of business. Ionati said sales at his gun shop erupted during the pandemic. He said he made more gun and ammo sales from March to April than what was done in the last 3 years, calling the period absolutely crazy. He said once the social unrest spread across the country by late May into early summer, the second round of panic buying occurred. And I quote, "You wouldn't believe the first time gun buyers I've seen," said Ionati. "I started seeing little old ladies, 70, 80 years old, wanting to defend themselves because of what was going on. So I had to change my thinking. I had to start buying 22 Magnum revolvers. I had some revolvers here, but I had to start buying revolvers that women and older folks could use because they are easy to handle. Semi-auto and revolver are two different things." And it says gun stocks soared this summer as gun background checks rose 79% in July year over year. The FBI ran over 3.6 million background checks through the National Instant Criminal Background Check System last month, the third highest on record behind 3.9 million checks in June and 3.7 million checks in March. And remember that earlier in 2020, there was a lot of talk out of Virginia and other places of going after the guns and taking them. And when they banned protests with COVID-19, they started pushing forward all crazy sorts of gun laws, House resolutions, etc. Red flags became a bigger issue. And it really goes to show, though, that with that in sight and people recognizing that this is obviously a real issue, people started buying guns en masse. This is always the case. It's like when, it's not just guns, by the way. It's like when Bitcoin is threatened by like the Chinese government or the Indian government or the Russian government or whatever. They say they're going to put bans on this, going to put regulations on this, taxes on that. People start buying more of it. That's the way it works, because people know that if they have to, if there's scarcity, there's going to be value naturally. And on top of that, when you have the government come in and stop something, you want to get it before it's stopped. Like in Hitler's Germany, before they did the gun bans, keep in mind that people constantly say, oh, Hitler armed way more people than, yeah, he armed his loyalists, but he stopped people that were anti-government and anti-Hitler from buying guns. What did that do? It spurred a lot of people going and buying guns, because they're like, well, after this, we won't be able to find a way to defend ourselves anymore other than the black market, which is dangerous. So they went and they got the guns while they still could. We're seeing that right now in the United States with imminent threat of not just a civil war, because I believe we're already kind of in that, but an all-out collapse of the economy. What would that lead to when it comes to criminality, people starving, people breaking into houses? 28 million people said to be homeless when the moratoriums finish, and that would be 9 out of 100 people. So that's almost 1 in 10 people homeless. Whether that'll be allowed to happen or not, I think banks and governments will buy up property and it'll be full-on communism, and they'll just give away free houses after all of this, quote-unquote free. But nonetheless, I do believe that it's going to cause a lot of panic. We're already seeing new panic buying when it comes to household goods and flour and rice and stuff like that. And that brings me to other things like this article out of Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, which says suddenly those RVs are looking like a pretty hot commodity. People are buying RVs in mass, going against Agenda 2030, you know, the whole agenda of being forced into small apartments in big cities. People are getting more and more anxious about what's happening here. They're getting more and more anxious about being in big cities, so they're moving to smaller towns, which actually really does not benefit the government at all. They want people in tight confines to control easily. And then at the same time, you have stuff like this out of Fox News. Bait and tackle shortage reportedly hits as fishing soars in popularity due to social distancing. You have another article here from MON, MichiganOutdoorsNews.com, says tackle shortage is real. Buy it when you find it. I've been to a few Walmarts lately all over the country, and you cannot find fishing rods in a lot of these Walmarts. I mean, honestly, people are buying it up in mass, and I saw this in Mexico as well because people were needing to feed their families the old-fashioned way. Instead of, give a man a fish and, you know, he'll eat the fish and it'll be done with it, but, you know, teach a man to fish and he'll be able to feed himself for the rest of his life. I mean, this is a perfect example of that natural perspective that people have. At the end of the day, they have to be independent. They have to be responsible for themselves. That's the basis of freedom itself. And when the government says you can't do something, people go, I don't want to be dependent on you. I don't want to be in chains by you. I don't want to be subservient to you. I'm going to sustain myself, whether they're vocal about it or not. You don't need protests. You don't need activists shouting at the top of their lungs about this kind of stuff. You have people going out of their way and doing it without making a peep. And that is the hidden majority that's in this country. This is the hidden majority that will win over the so-called revolution or evolution or whatever you want to call it long term. I'm optimistic long term about all this. I believe people will break free from this slave racket that we're all in, organized crime racket we call government. However, it's going to get worse before it gets better. But there are people out there silently preparing, silently getting ready, and almost everyone I know is suddenly wanting to move into an RV. Almost everyone I know is like, we got to buy up guns. Almost everyone I know is like, we need to get ways to be self-sustainable, live in the woods, fish, that kind of stuff. It's really getting to that point. So the average mom and pop that's doing that at the same time as their neighbor is like dependent on the government, living off a stimulus, hoping that the government will take care of them and everything's going to be fine, they're going to be left behind. Unfortunately for them, we can educate them as much as we can. It's kind of past the point of education at this point. It's at the point of survival, at action. And we are seeing people take action in the sense that their demand is going towards RVs. Their demand is going towards fishing rods. Their demand is going towards guns. Their demand is going towards cryptocurrency. Their demand is going towards gold and silver. This is happening whether people like it or not, whether the government likes it or not. They can try and stop it. They will try and stop it. But you know what's going to happen? More people are going to start doing these things. The more they try to crack down, the more people do the opposite. It's it's psychology. It's literally what you do with a kid. Oh, yeah, please keep drawing on that wall. Make it a task. Draw on that wall. The kid will stop drawing on the wall. I mean, maybe not as easy as that, but you get the point. Kids will, often do naturally the opposite of what their parents tell them to do. Adults still have that in them, and they will do the same if they go back and dig deep into their psyche and what really makes them feel free, what makes them feel independent, what makes them feel like a human being is living like a human being, bringing out the humanity in each of us and living free. At the end of the day, decentralization is something naturally people want to move towards, whether they support it or not vocally, whether they're ideologically prone to. Convenience is brought to us and it's used to enforce tyranny. We need to utilize the idea of convenience to promote the ideas of freedom and truth. And in doing that, you have the convenience of having your house wherever you go, not being tied to bills, not being tied to all these different things that you have when you have a house. Maybe when it comes to self-defense, you're not dependent on the police, calling the police. You're decentralized down to having your own way to self-regulate yourself. You have a gun, you have a way to defend yourself. Makes people feel a lot better sleeping at night. Makes people feel a lot better being able to sleep with a gun next to their bed. Some people think that's crazy because they come from different cultures, but you know what? Independence and self-defense is the basis of your free speech. It's a basis of your independence. It's a basis of your ability to survive. So that's how people survived hundreds of thousands of years. So I really think that this is really good news going forward. And keep in mind that places with the most guns, with the most concealed carry, with the most freedom on guns happen to be the safest places. They'll say, oh, well, the gun crime is up in those places. Okay, sure, the gun crime is up. The rape rates, the violent crime rates, the theft rates are way down. The murder rates are way down. You cannot argue with that. That is statistically true. In the largest possible extension of that is that if you go to Chicago, you are not going to do well walking around the south side. If you do it too often, you could seriously get yourself killed. I mean, it's a dangerous place. And I've been to the Middle East. I've hitchhiked across Africa. Trust me, I'd be much happier doing that than going to the south side of Chicago or parts of LA and Compton or parts of New York, you know? So, I mean, at the end of the day, people realize that their safety is in their hands more than anything, and they can't wait 4 hours for police to show up. So you have places like in Texas, where, you know, the rural communities where people have guns and are much safer than the places that have more restrictions in the big cities. And we're seeing that loosen in places like California. And I really think that we're onto something really big here. So let's hope this goes in a good direction and people keep looking towards defending themselves and sustaining themselves rather than being dependent on a big behemoth to save them from the very situation that they created in the first place. Government is organized crime, taxation is theft. You are free. Start living free. Start living by example and stop depending on these behemoths of state, these ships of state that all they want to do is get you on your knees begging, dependent, begging for help from the same issues that they created in the first place. Anyway, I'm ranting here, so I'm going to get going. But anyway, I really appreciate everyone watching. Make sure to hit that like button, share on social media to get around the shadow banning. We are super shadow banned, as you could probably tell here on YouTube if you're watching it on YouTube. Also, make sure to join our newsletter at www.iambanned.com. It only takes an email. It's super easy, and I really hope you guys do it because it really helps us stay alive. We are completely viewer funded, of course, so check out GoFundMe, Patreon, Subscribestar. We have crypto addresses below that you can donate to, including a Cointree address, which will allow you to donate to any different kind of cryptocurrency, including Monero to us, so we really appreciate that, as well as Flote.app, BitChute, LBRY, and Minds. Get off of YouTube, my friends, if you're watching on YouTube. No, there's no more time left to really be messing around on YouTube. We are going to be gone on November 5th, only posting trailers after that point, like I mentioned. So I really appreciate everyone watching. Just stay safe, and by that I mean be safe, and by that I mean live by example. Anyway, I appreciate everyone joining us, and until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change. My friends, it is go time. We are completely demonetized on YouTube, and we depend on the viewer to stay alive and spread the message of freedom and truth. So check those links below. GoFundMe, Patreon, Subscribestar, anything you guys could do to help keep independent media alive helps enormously in helping spread this message to the masses. So make sure to check those links. Donate to our Bitcoin address on the screen or below. We really appreciate anything you could do to keep us alive. You could check those links below for Cointree as well, where you can find other cryptocurrencies that you can donate and keep WAM alive. Find us on Flote.app, FLOTE.app, as well as BitChute and LBRY and Minds. We're on all the other platforms. We are leaving YouTube soon, so make sure to find us at those sites because it's the only way we can keep talking to you, the masses, the great people that actually care about the future of free humanity. Also, join our new newsletter at www.iambanned.com. Anything helps at this point, guys. We need to support free information online. This is the most difficult time in our history, and it takes a lot of hard work to keep our message alive in the face of great evils that have taken over the propaganda news on television as well as on YouTube, where YouTube decides what you can or cannot see. We need your help, my friends. So I really appreciate anything you guys can do. Check those links. There's many ways you can help. Until next time, though, thanks, everyone. This is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.
I'm sure you have already changed people's minds in your young age because you're involved, and I like that.